They are fighting against the Putin regime for the freedom of their peoples. A Yakut and a Tatar ended up in Ukraine as part of the occupying army. But they came to their senses, and now they are soldiers in the Nomad unit, which is part of the International Legion of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. It consists of representatives of the indigenous peoples of the Federation, mainly of Turkic and Mongolic origin. And its goal is the collapse of the bloody empire. How did Yakuts, Tatars, Bashkirs, and Kalmyks become Ukrainian defenders? Watch further to find out.
Both of them are dressed in Ukrainian pixel camouflage and carry NATO weapons.
M1601.
I like it.
But when it comes to their combat path, they clarify which period is being discussed.
What was the attitude from the commanders?
From which side?
From the Russian side.
Bad. Frankly, that's all I can say.
This is a 35-year-old Tatar from Bashkiria who took the call sign Sevdokar. His peer and comrade from Yakutia is Erel. Here he is in a recording for the Nomad unit addressing his fellow countrymen in the ranks of the Russian army.
In the brutal war unleashed by Moscow, 10,000 kilometers away from their families, the Kremlin is destroying the best sons of Sakha in local assaults.
This year, RL signed contracts with the Russian army, claiming he did so to surrender, fight for Ukraine, and take revenge on Putin's henchmen for the decline of his people.
This was in the early spring of this year, around the time when the weather was changing. He couldn't cross the border on his own. He had to do it.
And on his very first combat mission, he raised his hands in the air.
I listened to the voices, came out, and surrendered.
Weren't you afraid to surrender?
No.
Karpa was mobilized into Russia's terrorist army in the fall of 2022.
I was the first to be mobilized. I was working in Moscow. My sister calls me and says, "Come home, mobilization has started here." I had to come back. They took me to Tatarstan. That's where we did our training.
The Russian claims he served in the occupying forces in Luhansk region and was captured in Kursk region.
They sent us there as cannon fodder. We had no food, no water, nothing left. After 4 days, we ultimately decided basically to surrender.
Tell me, when you surrendered, were you planning to serve on the Ukrainian side?
Yes. I watched a lot of videos while we were sitting at the positions about Nomad, yeah. I watched videos about Nomad.
Nomad is a unit created this year by the main intelligence directorate as part of the International Legion. Its fighters call themselves representatives of the free peoples of the Russian Federation. Their goal is the collapse of the empire.
Should Bashkiria be an independent state?
Yes, about 80% there want this. This Putin regime has already lasted for 25 years. But it needs to be broken somehow. Without this, nothing will change.
Both Russian prisoners have undergone.
This step involves performing a series of thorough checks to ensure that everything is functioning correctly and according to the required standards.
Combat training and are fighting for Ukraine.
And,
What's so bad there?
well, if you don't do exactly what they say and do it as they say, they can, as they say, just erase you.
Who did you leave at home?
My sisters, my wife, and my mother, and my father, somewhere. They...
Know about your fate?
Yes,
Is your only connection to Russia in the main case?
Well, of course there is.
I do have relatives, but most of them have already been buried back home.
The guys say they've submitted documents to obtain Ukrainian citizenship and are gradually learning the language of their second homeland.
Have you learnt any Ukrainian words yet?
Just the basics. Like thank you.
Have you learned anything? Any Ukrainian words yet?
Well, some words, yes, I understand.
And can you say something?
Wishing you good health.
How long are you prepared to fight?
Until all of this is over. I think it won't end anytime soon, this war. It's dragging on.
Let's imagine an ideal situation. The war is over, the regime in Russia has changed. Will you go back home?
Of course. Yes, I will go back. I was born there.
Do you miss it?
Yes, a lot. It's impossible to put it into words.
I want to stay here, a new place.
What will you do?
Well, that's something to decide later.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers are addressing their fellow citizens whom their commanders are sending into pointless assaults for the sake of their leaders' delusional ideas and are encouraging them to follow their example.
What would you like to say to them? Don't you feel sorry for your comrades?
No, I don't feel sorry. Maybe that's why I am.
Still very much.
The year 2025 has turned into yet another streak of strategic failures for the Russian leadership, and the prospects for the Kremlin are looking increasingly bleak. Throughout the past year, according to investigative journalists, the military forces of the Russian Federation managed to occupy less than 1% of Ukrainian territory. At this current rate, the publication notes Russia will need at least one additional year, just to even approach the borders of Donbas, which the Kremlin calls a primary condition for starting peace negotiations. Furthermore, the lightning-fast detention of Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro and his wife by the military forces of the United States became yet another clear signal of the weakness of Russia's capabilities. Political analyst Abbas Galiamov emphasized that the success of the United States clearly demonstrated what an effective military operation actually looks like, which further demoralizes Russian society and elites. An additional significant blow was the fact that, let's not forget, Maduro was one of the Kremlin's key strategic allies. The situation was further complicated by the seizure of an oil tanker by the United States. The tanker was under the protection of the Russian Navy. As the Wall Street Journal notes, this event became yet another clear indication of Moscow's limited ability to influence global processes. Furthermore, the ongoing war is also hitting the Russian economy harder and harder as time goes on. Military losses in 2025 reached almost 16 trillion rubles. That is 5 times more than in 2021, before the start of the so-called special military operation. Oil and gas revenues in November fell by 34% compared to the previous year, and as of January 1st, VAT has been raised from 20 to 22%, which only increases the financial burden on the population. Levada Center polls indicate a sharp change in sentiment. If at the end of 2024, according to their data, 37% of Russians supported continuing the war, then a year later, only 25% remained. And even that is not necessarily genuine. Meanwhile, the share of those in favor of diplomatic peace negotiations has steadily climbed to a level of almost 70%. High interest rates, which were introduced to curb inflation, have effectively brought investment activity to a complete standstill. Added to this is the growing sense of dissatisfaction among the Russian elites, who find themselves unable to recover their assets currently blocked in European banks. Despite the Kremlin's proven ability to suppress public discontent, as journalists note, Vladimir Putin's domestic political support depends heavily on the loyalty of his closest circle. According to reports from the Wall Street Journal, this support may begin to weaken if the United States increases its military assistance to Ukraine, particularly with more effective means to counter Russian missiles and drones. In that case, as the publication notes those weary of the war, members of the Russian political and economic elite may begin to pressure the Kremlin and Putin, demanding a shift toward genuine and substantive peace negotiations on terms that are, in fact, acceptable to Ukraine. And what do you think about this? Write your thoughts in the comments and we will be happy to read them. That's all for now. Leave a like and write a comment. See you next time.